for coming out this lovely afternoon. I want to introduce Councilwoman Margaret Abe-Koga. She is a member of the City Council here and has served Mountain View twice as mayor, including last year. She has worked diligently on COVID-19 relief for the most vulnerable residents of the city and is dedicated to small businesses and helping them navigate the challenges of the pandemic and emerge stronger than ever. Margaret is a leading voice for basic income in the Bay Area and along with her City Council colleagues is helping establish the city's first basic income pilot. So, without further ado, please welcome Miss Margaret Abe-Koga.
Hello everyone. As mentioned, I'm Margaret Abe-Koga. I'm a former mayor and current council member here in the city of Mountain View, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to our great city for the 3rd annual Basic Income March. Mountain View is known as a mid-sized to small city, but with a big heart and a can-do attitude. And so I'm delighted to announce that earlier this year in May, the City Council expressed our support for a cash-based GBI pilot program in our city. And this coming Tuesday, on September 28th, the Council will hear about staff's hard work in researching these programs and models in other cities, and recommendations on forming and launching our own pilot program here in Mountain View. I invite you all to join us, tune in. We're still doing our council meetings on Zoom because we would really love to hear from all of you and your support for GBI. The COVID pandemic, as you all know, has been extremely tough financially on so many individuals and families as well as businesses in our community. It's exacerbated the growing income inequality that many of our Bay Area communities are experiencing. And as mayor last year, I worked hard with my colleagues and staff to provide financial relief and aid to as many people and businesses in our city as quickly as possible to try to keep them afloat. And now we need to take bold steps to help lift people up and out of poverty. This is what Mountain View is planning to do through our GBI program, and we hope to get it operational by early next year. What I like most about GBI is that it enables individuals and families in the program to decide for themselves how to use the added income, empowering them to make their own decisions. GBI is proving successes in other cities, and I'm so excited that Mountain View is joining the growing list of cities with GBI. Finally, I wanted to give a special shout out to Andrew Yang. I'm a proud Yang ganger in large part due to his championing of guaranteed basic income. It was through listening to him that I decided to introduce the concept in our city. So thank you, Andrew, for your leadership. We stand at a momentous time in history where our challenges are immense. But I know that our determination to overcome those challenges are even greater. It's great to see all of you here today because it's going to take us all working together to make the change that we need to make this world a better place for future generations. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for having me.
That was a great speech. All right, next we have Kevin F. Adler, who is a social entrepreneur and sociologist who never learned the word stranger. Interesting. He sees a world where everyone is seen as invaluable and interconnected. Kevin is a TED resident and the founder and CEO of Miracle Messages, an award-winning nonprofit that ends homelessness by rebuilding social support systems through family reunification services and a phone buddy program. Everybody needs a buddy here and then. Recently, Miracle Messages completed one of the first basic income pilots for people experiencing homelessness in the United States with extraordinary early results. And Kevin is here to share some of that. So, welcome, Kevin Adler.
Yeah, Kevin! All right. Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah! Feels good to be in person together, doesn't it? Yeah. So thank you to the organizers. Thank you everyone for putting on this great event. You know, I'm kind of surprised that I'm here. I wasn't expecting it a year ago. I didn't really know too much about UBI other than what Andrew Yang kind of was doing. But I run a nonprofit. We are called Miracle Messages. And we help people who are experiencing homelessness rebuild their social support systems. And so I started this work in honor of my uncle. He was homeless for about 30 years, suffered from schizophrenia, lived on and off the streets of Santa Cruz. And after he died, I realized that the people I was walking by on the streets, I didn't see them as people, someone's son or daughter, someone's brother or sister, some kid's beloved uncle. I saw them as problems to be solved, not people to be loved. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to change my heart and understand what people like my Uncle Mark faced. So for the course of a year, walked down Market Street and started having conversations with people experiencing homelessness. And what I heard over and over again changed my life. Because people over and over again said, I never realized I was homeless when I lost my housing, only when I lost my family and friends. Long story short, ended up creating an organization that helps people who are experiencing homelessness reconnect to their long-lost loved ones and provide a phone buddy system for weekly phone calls and text messages for those who don't have family. That program has reconnected 500 families with an average time disconnected of 15 years. 80% have led to a positive outcome and 20% have led to stable housing. And our phone buddy program has just been as successful. So you may ask, well, what does this have to do with UBI? Well, we've built a level of trust in our programs, in our neighbors experiencing homelessness, that's led us to want to invest in the people that we're getting to know. You know, weekly phone calls and text messages, you start seeing what the barriers are to someone getting off the streets. And so 9 months ago, we decided to raise money for one of the first basic income pilots for people experiencing homelessness in the United States. Crazy idea, right? Set a goal of $15,000. Within 24 hours, ended up having $50,000 individual contributions raised. So then it's like, all right, what do we do with it? So we invited all the volunteers in our buddy program to nominate their friends, and we had 50 people nominated. We ended up selecting 14 individuals experiencing homelessness for one of the first basic income pilots in the United States. So I'm here now to share the results for the first time. From the 12 individuals in the initial pilot who are experiencing homelessness at the beginning of the pilot, 50% were able to secure stable housing as a direct result of $500 a month. Who here thinks that they'd be able to figure out a way to secure housing for $500 a month in the Bay Area? To me, it's a testament of the resourcefulness of our friends. People like Ray, who, when he joined the Miracle Money pilot, he said he had 2 goals: to get housed and to reconnect to his daughter. Well, he was able to get housed with the help of a friend, contribute to the rent, and then it turned out that his miracle friend, Jen, was a teacher at the school where his daughter was attending. He was able to help them reconnect. And he initially turned down the money because he said, I've already received so much. Isn't there anyone else who needs it more? This is a person experiencing homelessness. People like Carrie Dad, who were able to get stable housing in an SRO, help their brother pay for unexpected medical bills. People like Muhammad, who was able to get a blender to eat processed foods because he doesn't have teeth that could eat solid foods, and return to the mosque wearing clean, new clothes. Okay, people like Martin, who got a service dog, and people like Pamela, who said this is the first time in her adult life she's felt a sense of security because she had $500 a month. So this is pretty exciting, right? That people experiencing homelessness can be part of these basic income programs because basic income means basic dignity. And our neighbors experiencing homelessness, people like Elizabeth, who her first thing that she did when she got the $500 is she made a donation to the nonprofit Miracle Messages. And when I asked her, why on earth would you make a donation? You didn't need to do this. This is what she said. She said, I didn't do it for you. I did it for myself, so I can once again feel the dignity of being able to support the causes that I believe in. That's the caliber of people that we're working with. So now I just wanted to invite all of you, if you're interested in getting involved in supporting a basic income pilot around people experiencing homelessness, I'd love to chat. If you want to volunteer and you feel helpless and frustrated on this human rights issue of our day, we have a network of volunteer digital detectives who go online, make phone calls, write letters, find family members. And we also have a phone buddy program that's essentially big brothers, big sisters for the homeless. We'd love to have you join that program. We're also looking to expand our Miracle Money pilot. But I just want to conclude by saying, for me, investing in individuals is a lot more than investing in individuals. It's investing in communities. It's investing in neighborhoods. It's investing in people who are sometimes not invested in. And it's investing in a future where we see our neighbors experiencing homelessness and all people, not as problems to be solved, but as people to be loved, and embrace the intrinsic value and the dignity of every single person on earth. So thank you so much. And
Thank you, Kevin, for that speech and the work you do. It's very, very important. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Pat Showalter, a city councilwoman here from Mountain View, and an advocate for basic income as well, working on this policy. We need more people like that in the halls of power. All right. I would like to introduce Natalie Foster. Natalie is the co-chair and co-founder of the Economic Security Project, a network to support exploration and experimentation of a guaranteed income, and a senior fellow at the Aspen Institute Future of Work Initiative. She's been awarded fellowships at Institute for the Future, Rockwood Leadership Institute, and New America, California, and is a board member of the California Budget and Policy Center, the Change.org Global Foundation, and Liberation in a Generation, a project to close the racial wealth gap. We're excited to have her here and share her thoughts about the state of basic income in America and the progress that's been made. So without further ado, Natalie Foster.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is such an honor to be here. Thank you, Christina, and thank you to the organizers for this rally. I want to start by telling you Tomas's story. So Tomas Vargas lives in Stockton, California. And several years ago, Tomas got a letter in the mail that said he had randomly been chosen to participate in the nation's first guaranteed income demonstration in Stockton, led by then Mayor Michael Tubbs. Now, Tomas didn't believe it was true at first, but luckily he filled out the paperwork and signed up. And shortly thereafter, his checks started coming in the mail. Now, Tomas worked many jobs to make ends meet. Like so many people, he had a job and then he had gigs in order to make sure he could pay the rent for his children and keep a roof over his head. And when the checks started coming, it meant that Tomas could quit one of his gigs and spend more time with his family. So one Saturday morning, he took his children to the pool. Leisurely Saturday morning, he sat on the side of the pool, he dangled his legs in the cool water, and he realized that his children knew how to swim. That was a fact Tomas didn't know because he had never been able to spend a leisurely Saturday morning with his children. And when the checks started coming in, $500 a month in Stockton, it meant Tomas could spend a Saturday morning with his children and realize they knew how to swim. That is the kind of thing I want for everyone in this nation. What Tomas bought was so much more than the groceries and the utility bills. He bought time. Time to invest in his children and his family. Time to invest in his community, his church, his PTA, Cub Scouts, and time to invest in himself. Now, this movement for a guaranteed income or basic income has come so far. And it's thanks so much to you, to groups like Level Up California, here in the state that is keeping this movement going, and to Income Movement nationally, who has built the scaffolding to make this organization happen, this work happen, this movement happen. And my organization, Economic Security Project, is proud to support Income Movement's work. We were proud to be the first donors in to Stockton's demonstration that has grown so tremendously. And just look how far we've come over the past several years. You know, several years ago, there were 0 mayors who supported the idea of a federal guaranteed income in America. There are now over 60 mayors who've joined Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, mayors all over the state of California, mayors here in Mountain View, mayors in small cities like Wausau, Wisconsin, and big cities like Chicago, which just announced the nation's largest pilot that will be happening at some point in the coming weeks. So we've gone from 0 mayors to over 60 mayors. We've gone from 0 bills in Congress, the hard work of figuring out how you would actually do the policy, to dozens of bills in Congress that would actually create an income floor in America today. And we've gone from 0 monthly checks from the federal government supporting families to now what has passed in the American Rescue Plan, which is the expansion of the child tax credit. Now we're clapping for a tax credit, right? It sounds like deep buried, submerged into the tax code. But let's actually talk about the child tax credit. What has passed in the American Rescue Plan and what's at stake is nothing short of a radical shift in American policy. It would mean that nearly every parent in this country receives a check with no strings attached to raise their children and raise their families as they see fit. It would mean that half of Black and Latinx children in this country would receive it, which they currently didn't before the expansion of the American Rescue Plan. And it could be the law of the land, right? If we are successful in making this permanent, it could be checks that come in until the child turns 18 years old and is a cornerstone of American social policy. So how many people here have called their member of Congress about the child tax credit? All right, I see a hand here. I see Giselle. Andrew, have you called? So it's really exciting. I need everyone here, no matter who your member of Congress is, to make sure you call, because they have to know we care about this in order to pass it and make it permanent. And then when we are done cutting child poverty in half with the American Rescue Plan and with the child tax credit, we can turn toward ending poverty itself in this country. Thank you all so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Go ahead, man.
Thank you for the music, DJ Milo. Give a shout out, give a warm greet to DJ Milo over there. All right, I would like to introduce Ann Price. Ann was one of the first national thought leaders to both examine and push for narrative change in addressing race and gender wealth inequality. She has worked in the public sector in a wide range of issues, including child welfare, child hunger, workforce development, community development, and higher education. We're grateful to have her here to share her thoughts on basic income and how it can address inequality. Ann Price.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great music. You know, I just want to acknowledge what an amazing moment we're in right now. Just a few years ago, the idea of passing a federal basic income was laughed at as radical. If we can find anything about this moment, any kind of bright light about the pandemic, it's that our leaders finally saw that cash without strings is the most direct and effective way of keeping food on people's table and keeping roofs over their heads. So we're in an amazing moment. As Natalie said, we have an opportunity now that every parent with a child under 18 can have income every month. So with the vision that's being laid out right now, the one that you care so much about, demanding change, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, but for now, now. We're demanding change now. And I'm so confident that we will soon reach our goal of an income floor for every single American in this country. This is our moment right now. For some of you who may be new to this issue and may not understand or know its historical roots, I just want to take a minute to honor the legacy of this work. You know, this work is embedded in racial and economic justice in this country that started over 50 years ago. Some of you might know that it was the Black Panthers who had a 10-point plan that put this on their agenda. You might know that Martin Luther King had this as part of his platform before he died, a guaranteed income. But oftentimes we don't even know that this work started with women. It was women who came off of plantations and sharecropping in the South, Black women who joined with indigenous women and white women in Appalachia and Latinas and said, we need a new system for our economy. One that is not based on the color of your skin or where you live, but is really based in dignity and where work is not just about paid wages, that we have to honor the dignity that is inherent in all of us. They demanded a change, and that change was basic income. So we have to acknowledge this legacy, because this legacy is going to carry us forward in amazing ways, right? In light of this, we have to recognize that this is not just any kind of transactional economic policy. This is doing so much more, because it is about dignity and the worth that is inherent in all of us. And we have to build on those notions, those values. We need to take a broader, basic view of basic income as a mechanism that's lifting up people who have been shut out of our economy for far too long, whether they're experiencing homelessness or whether they've been incarcerated. This is opening up new opportunities for those who've been shut out the most. And we need to be crystal clear that income, that basic income is much more than just the paternalistic programs that we've seen, that those that have been built on racist ideology and stereotypes, that we need the ability for people to be more self-determining and have the freedom and choice in making those decisions for their families that we know are most important. So I know that basic income is not going to completely eliminate racial injustices, but it would enable people, no matter their race, no matter their gender or zip code, to take greater control over their lives and their destinies. This is an essential tenet for true liberation, and one that puts us finally and resolutely with the strength of all those who came before us. So I say, here we are on a path to racial and economic justice. Let's move forward. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Anne. Let's get another round of applause for that great speech. I would also like to take this moment to highlight some of the great partners we have here. The Cal Ranked Choice Voting Coalition is over there. They're great people. Level Up California. Can I hear some noise for Level Up California? Those fantastic people helped organize this today. They did a lot of great work. Thank you so much. And of course, the Income Movement, all great folks. With that, I am going to introduce Mr. Martin Ford. Martin Ford is here, and we're excited to have him. Martin is a prominent futurist, thinker, and polemic on the topic of our rapidly advancing technological society and how we address these major adjustments to our lives. You may have seen Martin on his TED Talk about robotics, economy, and society. Martin has appeared in the pages of the New York Times, the Atlantic, the Washington Post, and the Harvard Business Review. Quite impressive. His writing career has continued to many best-selling books on the topic of automation, robotics, and more, including his latest title that I suggest you all check out, which is called Rule of the Robots: How Artificial Intelligence Will Transform Everything. Without further ado, Mr. Martin Ford.
Thank you very much. I think there are many good reasons to support UBI. I've become an advocate of basic income primarily because I believe that technological advance is going to be relentless, that many jobs are going to be automated, that many other jobs are going to be de-skilled so that wages are driven down, and this is ultimately going to leave a lot of people behind. Now, I started thinking about this way back in 2009 when I published my first book on this subject, and since then I've published 3 other books that touch on this. And I have to say that in that roughly 12 years, I haven't seen anything that would change my mind about this. I believe that technology is going to continue to advance relentlessly. In particular, artificial intelligence has advanced dramatically over roughly the last decade, and it's, I think, very clear that AI is going to be one of the most important forces that shapes our future. Now, I think AI is going to bring enormous benefits to humanity because it's going to drive innovation across the board. It's going to amplify our creativity, our ability to innovate, and that hopefully is going to allow us to solve some of the critical problems that we're going to face in the next years and decades. If you just look at climate change, for example, we're going to need innovation in many domains in order to reduce carbon emissions and also to adapt to the changing climate. And I think artificial intelligence is going to be one of the most critical tools we have to help us do that. So we definitely don't want to turn away from these technologies. But at the same time, we have to recognize that technologies like AI come coupled with some very real risks, some dangers. And I think one of the most important risks is going to be the potential impact on jobs and on the distribution of income. And I'm not talking about some science fiction scenario where robots are literally doing all the jobs. What I am really saying, though, is that a very significant percentage of our workforce, maybe as many as half of the people out there working, are doing things that are fundamentally predictable, or things that are essentially repetitive or routine. These are people that come to work and they tend to face the same kinds of challenges again and again, or they do the same types of activities over and over. And any job of this type is ultimately going to be susceptible to automation via technologies like machine learning. Essentially, you're going to have smart algorithms that can churn through lots of data, and that data will encapsulate many of the important activities in a job, and those algorithms will figure out how to do that work. And it won't matter if this is a job that is in a fast food restaurant, or if it's a job in an Amazon warehouse, or if it's more of a white-collar job, a knowledge-based job. In other words, a job where you're really manipulating information in some relatively routine way. And these jobs, of course, are very often going to be done by people that actually have college degrees. In fact, if you look at white-collar work or knowledge-based work, very often the kind of job where you're just working with information, if you're, for example, sitting in front of a laptop and you crank out the same type of report again and again, or you do the same kind of quantitative analysis again and again, very often those jobs are actually easier and less expensive to automate than a more manual job that actually requires manipulation of the environment. And the reason, of course, is that you don't need an expensive robot to automate that job. All you need is software. So this is going to be a very broad-based phenomenon. It's going to impact across industry sectors, all kinds of jobs, and all kinds of skill levels. And I think that the danger we face is that we're going to have a society in the future that is dramatically more unequal, even more unequal than it is now, where a lot of people are really going to struggle to generate sufficient income. And that, of course, is a big humanitarian issue. It's a social problem, but it's also a fundamental economic issue because the economy relies on broad-based consumer demand. In order to have a successful, growing, robust economy, we need huge numbers of people that actually have the income so that they can go out and buy all the products and services being produced by the economy. A tiny number of rich people cannot by themselves create sufficient demand to keep things going. We really need a reasonable distribution of income, and I think that a basic income is going to be a very important part of the solution to that. I think that there is obviously a humanitarian argument for UBI, but there also is a critically important economic argument for it, and we need to consider that as we advocate for these programs. So I just want to say that when I started writing about this 12 years ago, I never would have imagined how much traction this idea has really gotten, and we see so many people now supporting UBI. We've done a terrific job, I think, of getting this idea on the radar. So thank you very much for that support, and I hope that you all carry it forward, and we can build a future that works for everyone. Thank you.
Nothing like a little Luther Vandross to get started. All right, so our next speaker is Deborah Cullinan. She is the CEO of the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts and is one of the nation's leading thinkers on the pivotal role artists and art organizations can play in shaping our social and political landscape. She spent years mobilizing communities through arts and culture, and Deborah is committed to revolutionizing the role art centers play in public life. She has also launched several bold new programs, engagement strategies, and civic coalitions along with her work at the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. We're excited to have her speak today on the importance of the arts and how basic income can help open up a space for more artists to explore their talents and share them with the world. So, Miss Deborah Cullinan.
Hi there. So I am so honored and humbled to be here with all of you to celebrate the momentum that is gaining for guaranteed basic income and for equity and for justice. It's like really an extraordinary moment. It feels like we're at that exact place where change is possible, and I feel the electricity. I hope you all do too. I also feel the hard work that has led to this moment, so thank you to all of you for heart and soul work. Go ahead. It takes all of us. So at YBCA, we are so honored to be partnering with San Francisco Mayor London Breed on our guaranteed income pilot for artists. We're also deeply grateful to Jack Dorsey and his team at Start Small for augmenting with a very generous gift so that we can build this program and extend it. So we are working now with 130 artists with the city pilot, and we're going to be working with 6 community-based organizations in San Francisco in order to add 60 more artists. This is 190 artists at $1,000 a month, no strings attached for 18 months, and we're really proud of that. Thank you. Yeah, so this work is about recognizing the role that artists, culture bearers, place keepers, and storytellers play in making meaning in our lives, in helping us to build cohesion, to trust one another, to come together, and to advance equity, health, and well-being in our communities. It's about the idea that when you invest in an artist, the ripples of return are profound. And it is, thank you. It is also about the transformational impact that artists across this country are having every day, block by neighborhood, in classrooms, underfunded and undervalued. Imagine what we can unleash when we create economic security for artists and creative people across this country. Just imagine it. Before you are going to hear from one of the amazing, extraordinary artists who is participating in our program, I just want to share one story that illustrates the impact for all of you of what happens. But before I do that, I want to say, of course, it is not only about artists and about creativity. It is about all of us feeling secure and safe in our lives. It's about our interconnectedness and our interdependence. It's about the idea that if anyone is not secure, none of us are. That's what it's about. And so, the story I want to tell, I was at an event and 2 different artists came to introduce themselves to me, both of them participants in our guaranteed income pilot for artists. They both cried. They both spoke to a feeling of safety and security that they had never experienced in their lives. They both talked about security. One spoke to housing stability that they had never felt before in the city of San Francisco. The other talked about being able to access mental health services that were so desperately needed in her life. Can you imagine the bravery of these people to share these details of their lives with me and to do so with such gratitude? I was the one that was grateful. They also talked about this ripple of return, and I know this is true for anyone who is able to participate in this kind of program.
One artist talked about how they were able to support their artist collaborators. So that ripple of return, you invest in an artist and they will invest tenfold in their community. The other one talked about being given the space and the breathing room to imagine an idea that was so much bigger than she ever thought she could achieve, and she achieved it. So that's what we're talking about. I am so honored to be here with all of you. I want to thank the organizers for sure, and I really need to thank the team at YBCA because they're the ones that make this work happen. Steph, Ima, Isa Villarosa, Lauren Ruffin, Penelope Douglas, Emma Gutman-Slater, all y'all rock, and we wouldn't be here without you. So let's get this done, everyone, and thank you.
All right, next we have Kevin Dublin, who is an education advocate, editor, and writer of poetry, prose, scripts, and code. That's quite an impressive list of talents there. Currently the director of the Elder Writing Project, a community-based outreach group of the Litquake Foundation, and a teaching assistant at the Oakland-based co-op Kickstart Coding. Kevin is passionate about access to education for all, and has worked with emerging writers and programmers from the ages of 5 to 105. It's quite a range. His words have recently appeared or forthcoming in the San Franciscan, Cincinnati Review, and the North Carolina Literary Review. And he is the author of the chapbook, How to Fall in Love in San Diego. So if you're traveling to San Diego, buy that. You can find him on Twitter at Part Everything. So, Kevin Dublin, take it away.
So happy to be here. Let's give it up for all the previous speakers. Like I've just been, and for what's to come. Yeah. So I just want to begin by saying that no matter what, whether we agree or disagree, I believe in humanity. I believe in humanity as much as I believe there are gulls over the ocean and waves below them when I hear their calls at the beach. Even when I'm not looking, even when my eyes are closed, even when I'm not there. The same way that I believe in each and every one of you. I initially wanted to speak about what it means to be an artist because, as you heard, I am one of the recipients of the Basic Income Pilot for Artists in San Francisco. I consider myself an artist who works in multiple mediums. But my primary mode is to write and perform poetry, as well as to develop curriculum and teach. I've done all of these things in academia and public and private schools, for businesses and private venues, but I truly love to do it directly in the community. I believe in access to education for all, and one of the primary reasons for that is because it was illegal for my great-great-grandparents to read. And my father was illiterate even through the early part of his adulthood. But you likely want to hear about my time as a part of this program and what I think about it. One of the major criticisms of guaranteed minimum income pilots is people think, what kind of impact could such a small amount of money have on such a limited amount of people over a short amount of time? And one answer is that it's the difference between catching up on rent and stressing over eviction after you lose income. It's the difference between a 4-year-old's desire to live with his father still going unfulfilled 8 years later, and it finally being fulfilled. It's the difference between being able to afford a cross-country trip, connecting with family one hasn't seen in years, hearing the story of a father selling the shoes from his feet and jacket from his back to feed his 2 younger brothers when his mother was sick, and never learning you have 2 great uncles who were lynched in trees you would pass on the road to the church you went to as a kid. But those are only from my own personal experiences as a participant in one of these pilots. So we get a universal basic income because I think it's inevitable. We will get it. We'll see the truth. The truth is that each basic income pilot is just a spark for the fire. And the true number of answers for all of us, they're infinite. I have been able to write, but there are others who will be able to paint, to dance, to sculpt, to film, to build businesses, to climb out of the holes that the economic structures integrated into our society sent us into simply because we have the desire to create for others, to build communities without being born into financial freedom. But if it can be integrated, it can also be disintegrated. And a basic income is but one part of that process. We've witnessed the vulnerabilities in our government's response to this, which is not limited to a president nor a particular party, but the limitations of the design of our economy and social safety net. It's like trying to carry water for a mile through the desert in cupped hands. In a world like that, can we call our society humane? Can we call ourselves a society if we allow the savage and unnecessary inequalities of poverty to continue? If we allow citizens to sleep in lice-covered clothes on our streets, if we allow a single child to wake to the dawn hungry, if we do not feed her through the day as she itches, if she can't eat in the evening, if we continue to allow over 44,000 people to die each year from lack of health insurance and leave millions to put off care because of rising healthcare costs, if reparations are not paid for the decades of federally backed, locally mandated policies like redlining or segregation or slavery, which block access to generations of wealth accumulation and intrinsically link class with race. Because it is a choice. It's all of our choices. It's all of our choices today. Under our UBI banners, under these warm beams that are like the vestiges of summer sun, if we can choose to support a child tax credit, which eliminates nearly half of child poverty, then we can choose to support a child tax credit, which eliminates all of child poverty, as well as supporting multiple measures, including a basic income, to eliminate poverty for all families, for all people of our country. So when we get that universal basic income, and again, we will get it, we'll know that this moment wasn't dying coal embers glowing in the night. This moment is more than the smoke of Martin Luther King Jr.'s desire for the potential of the individual to not be wasted, to make space for new forms of work that enhance the social good. This moment is more than ashes of those whose ideas he inherited and piled at the base of a fire pit of the opposition has either assassinated, defamed, or imprisoned to try and extinguish. This moment has people reading, writing, speaking, gathering, strategizing, demanding the most I have ever seen in my lifetime. And it is through these actions, through demands, that there will be change, because there will only be change. We make the choice to be outraged. We have to be outraged enough and force that change, because we can make a basic income reality by showing how much support it has, by making it dangerous for any politician to not actively endorse it. President Barack Obama said that he used to tell his staffers that better is good. The truth is that better is not enough. It never has been. This is not the time to settle for incrementalism. The bill for fixing our systems of exclusion is pink and long past due. If being somewhat better is the baseline, how many generations will it take before there are children who don't wake up to a slow murder, like a housefly kicking itself in the liquid of a bottled Coke? We can't hope for better. We have to demand what's best. We have to believe that a guaranteed basic income isn't radical. As Ann said, it isn't radical for each citizen to have enough to eat or a financial safety net. It isn't radical for each citizen to have the financial freedom to fail, to start a business or create culture. It isn't radical for each citizen to be able to take care of their families, of their community, and to still feel valued. It isn't radical to know we need more and to demand it. So when we get a universal basic income, it's a starting point. We all know that from the first time our 4 or so year old hands draw circles in the sand, or with chalk on a sidewalk, or with a large pencil on paper, that each circle begins with a starting point. And each starting point can become a revolution.
All right, well, I have a very special introduction here, which is Dr. Giselle Huff, who is the founder and president of the Gerald Huff Fund for Humanity and a sponsor for the Basic Income March. So you can give her a round of applause before I finish the rest. But she deserves it. The loss of her son, Gerald, to pancreatic cancer in 2018 spurred Dr. Huff to apply her talents and energy to a cause they both shared: concern about technological unemployment, the growing economic divide, and the potential of UBI to help address these challenges on a broader scale. Dr. Huff is a tireless advocate for UBI, and we're glad to have her here to share some thoughts about that topic. Without further ado, Dr. Giselle Huff.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Gerald would be astounded at what is going on at this point that we've just heard about from the previous speakers. He started thinking about this in 2013, became friends with Scott Sentence, who's the guru of UBI intellectually, and really went all out, devoting his time and his passion to this topic. He wrote a techno-thriller called Crisis 2038, where he describes what it would be like in 2038 if we don't do something now, as we just heard our last speaker say. And you can pick up a postcard on the Income March table in the back, where you will see how you can read the book for free, not read it, sorry, technology. You can hear the book for free at the website that we've established. So I'm now standing here, I'm 85 years old. That's not an applause line. Let me tell you, when I get up in the morning, it's not an applause line. The reason I'm saying that is that because I now have the hope, the belief that this is going to happen in my lifetime. I couldn't say that before. I've never been able to say that. And the way it's going to happen is as when I introduce the next speaker, is the steps that are going to take place, as Natalie referred to in her speech, that are one step at a time, but never letting go, never stopping, one step at a time, and taking every victory as something to be celebrating. It is my great pleasure to introduce my dear friend, Senator Dave Cortese. So my connection to Senator Cortese was very serendipitous. We had lunch one day in a very nice restaurant in San Francisco, and we started talking about universal basic income. And from that conversation, Dave became a champion of UBI, and when he was on the Board of Supervisors of Santa Clara County, he started the first government entity UBI program in this century for a pilot for transitional foster youth. And that program was accepted and voted in by his fellow supervisors unanimously. Now, so it started in a local area, in a very small targeted group of people, and it became a model for when Dave was elected to the California State Senate to get him to propose SB 739, which expands the whole program to every transitional foster youth in California. This is the way we're going to get to a federal universal basic income. And it's going to happen while I'm still alive. So join me in welcoming Senator Cortese.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Giselle. Let me give you she gave you the softer version of that lunch. What really happened was she said, you need to get to San Francisco to meet with me about universal basic income. And when I got there, she quickly said, can you make all safety net programs in Santa Clara County basic income? Eliminate what you have now, make it basic income. That's what she really wants, that's what she believes in. You heard her just talk about that, and that's where we're headed, right? Yeah. You with me on that? That's where we're headed. I said, here's what I think I can do right now to break the ice, to get some movement, and you heard about that, transitional age foster youth. And so that's moving. I want to talk about that just a little bit, and then I'll get off the stage here. Let me acknowledge once again Pat Showalter and Margaret Abe-Koga here from the city of Mountain View, two dynamic leaders who are here. You know, they're here today, probably with 9 other invitations in the city of Mountain View to be other places because they're committed to this. And again, as Giselle was just saying, this is what we need. We need the effort at every level of government and foundations and corporate philanthropy and so on. It is tremendous, of course, and the reason I'm sure so many of you are here to have Andrew Yang here. The inspiration for all of us. The inspiration for all of us in terms of taking on this work and really taking it on with that, initially at least, that sort of underdog persona that we're going to change the world, and you have already, and we'll continue to do that. Thank you so much for that. I want to tell a little story in front of him while he's here as to why I understand the ideology, and that is because a long time ago, when I was 12 years old, Dr. Martin Luther King was still alive, and we had a very, very conservative Board of Supervisors in Santa Clara County across the board. I would say reactionary, if you know what that word means. And my father was a farmer, had never held public office. His name, he's still alive, he's 89, his name's Dominic Cortese. But my father was listening to this Board of Supervisors, and one day the supervisor that represented our area, the east side of San Jose, the poor side of town, where the poverty is, where you needed tax credits back then, 50 years ago, our supervisor at that time, in 1968, said, they don't need any more money. They need to stop having babies. They need to stop living the life that they want to live, all right? And that sounds like ancient ideology from 50 years ago. We all know it's not, right? Yep. It's happening right now in other states. That kind of, they don't need what they think they need what we think they need. And when I met with Giselle, she said to me, that's what you have to correct. And I'm okay, she said, with doing a pilot at the county level or the state level or anywhere else, as long as you are committed to going all the way, all right? Because this has to be, the ideology of this is to empower, not oppress. To invest, not marginalize, right? And if that's not where we're going, then even the pilot programs are worthless, right? So we're not doing trends here. Thanks to the inspiration that we've received, we're all trying to change the world. What happened quickly, let me just tell you, is we ran that pilot in Santa Clara County, as you just heard. It's successful. It's having astounding success, just like you've heard from other speakers in other demographic areas. SB 739, my bill, in the state capitol this year, this immediate past session, was favored so well by the governor that he said, that idea needs money. So we're going to take it right now and put it right into the budget in what Sacramento folks call trailer bill language, and we're going to put $30 million out there, and we're going to run guaranteed income statewide, not only for transitional age foster youth, but for pregnant women as well. That's right now in the state of California. That's the law in the state of California, the first state I know of in the United States of America. Again, thanks to the inspiration we receive on a national level to take this and run with it and say, we're not only going to break the ice, we're going to start doing what Giselle wants to do. We're going to chip away until we replace this old safety net paternalistic system with something that empowers and doesn't oppress. So thank you so much. I know it's not my job to introduce the next speaker, so I'm going to sit down and listen to that introduction, but I do want to say thank you so much for being a game changer, Andrew Yang. We appreciate you.
Well, the good senator did most of the good introduction work for me, so what I will say is I am about to introduce the former 2020 presidential candidate who made America think harder about universal basic income. Give a warm shout out and applause for Andrew Yang.
Hello, California! It's great to be back. I am thrilled to address you as your president. It really is great to be back. And in many ways, it always felt to me that California was the birthplace of my campaign, in large part because the first real rally we had was right here in the Bay Area. I don't know how many of you were there, how many remember that? You remember this? And I remember vividly being in the SUV with Zach, and we were going to the rally, and we were like, what's with all this traffic? And then we realized it was our traffic because everyone was going to our rally, and we were like, what is going on? The first hit was that someone had like a Yang sign in their car, and we were like, hey, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is for us. And that was right here in the Bay Area. This is the hub of innovation, yes. I think it's the hub of social transformation in some ways. And we have successfully completed the first rung of getting our society to universal basic income. And I'm going to talk about the next stage for much of my time here. But I do want to recognize some of what Anne and Kevin and Giselle and others were talking about, the heritage of UBI. I was always the first to say this is not my idea, that this idea has very, very deep roots in American life. But something happened between Dr. King's assassination and 2019 where we've been collectively brainwashed to think that our purpose is to serve this capital E economy. And if you think about it, really, like we've internalized that language in our own everyday speech, where we talk about ourselves and being optimized and efficient and hustling and like the grind and all these other things. Like we really have turned ourselves into these economic actors. And while I was running for president, I would actually make the argument often in those terms, which was, I thought, one of my virtues. And I was on a panel with Mayor Michael Tubbs early on in the campaign, and he came to me after the panel and said, Andrew, you can say shit I could never get away with. Because he said, if the black young mayor says we should give everyone money, then people are going to look at me like, oh, of course you're making that argument. But if the Asian billionaire tech guy talks about it, then it's like a completely different lens. And I could make a very practical argument around automation and AI that Martin actually brought me to. He was one of the main intellectual forefathers of the technological unemployment awareness. But I always knew in my heart of hearts that this was essentially a human argument. It's like, we should do it because it would help people. But if I went around leading with that argument, it would have gone nowhere, honestly. It's like, if you have a microphone in your face, be like, why should we give everyone money? As well as it's the obvious thing to do and it would help people. Be like, no, that we don't care about that. So it'd be like, okay, well, how about the fact that AI is going to come? and disrupt the economy, and we're going to lose millions of jobs. And then we could make the case in a particular way. I used to think the problem we faced was that people didn't know what universal basic income was, and when I first hit the trail, we all know that the idea was essentially treated as fanciful, impossible, too good to be true. I was mocked as a novelty, and it was the people here in the Bay Area that saw the vision early on and said, wait a minute, this is right, and we can make it happen for our fellow Americans. And I stand before you now, after this first leg, where now a majority of Americans are for universal basic income, in large part to the hard work of everyone here and some of the speakers. Let's give the speakers a round of applause who helped make this happen. And Margaret and David, the actual elected officials, are going to make it happen too, because that's something phenomenal. I also do want to take a bit of time to talk about Gerald Huff. Gerald has touched a lot of people here, and he was a supporter of mine early on, again, early adopter. He was a very, very senior technologist who saw what was coming down the pike. And I met him at a house party fundraiser in the Bay Area. And then when I heard that he passed, it was the most heartbreaking, stunning news, because I'd seen him hale and hearty maybe 2-3 months earlier. The fact that he had passed struck me as literally impossible. And it was shortly after that I sat with his mother, Giselle, who's here with us today. And Giselle said that what Gerald would want us all to do is to take his vision further and help make it a reality. And Giselle has been a powerhouse every day since then. And I do want to recognize the work that Giselle's doing on her son's behalf. Thank you, Giselle. And though this is the right thing, Giselle's doing it for the most human of reasons. This is what her son believed in, and she wants to honor his memory. I'm a parent. I have no idea what it would be like to lose your child, but you're building on his legacy in the best way possible, Giselle. So I used to think the problem was that people didn't know about universal basic income, but now they do. Now 55% of Americans are for it, and many more are interested and sympathetic to it. So then why is it that we don't have it? And one of the reasons why is that our system is not actually designed to reward legislators that listen to us, truly. So I'm the math guy. What do you all think the national approval rating is for the US Congress right now? 28%. 28%, that's right. That's not so good, right? That's like 3 out of 4 are not excited. What is the re-election rate for individual members of Congress?
95%.
94%. Right? So 3 out of 4 Americans can be upset about what's happening or not happening at a Congress, but 94% of the legislators will get re-elected time and time again. Now, why is that? It's because they don't need to be accountable to 51% of the voters in their district. They just need to be accountable to the 20% most extreme on the left or the right who will vote in the party primary that will get them back to office. 83% of the congressional districts in this country are safe seats in one direction or the other. So if you're a legislator, your rational behavior then is just to avoid getting primaried in the most extreme 20% in your district. Our political incentives are actually literally tearing the country apart because we're rewarding political figures who themselves start to embody the extremes. Even if they started out in another place, they're going to listen to the incentives that they have. This is what we have to change. There's a human argument to be made, but we know at this point the political system does not listen to humanity. It doesn't. It hasn't for quite some time. What the political system will listen to is their own incentives. And I do want to point out one big part of the solution. Why the heck is there a ranked choice voting booth at a basic income rally? Like, what's that relationship? You know, is that just like random, like plucked out of the air? You're all laughing. I'm going to argue that that is the practical path to universal basic income. Because if we're going to actually have a system of politicians that listen to the people, we're going to need to change their incentives. I spent several years mainstreaming other people's ideas around universal basic income. And you all helped me do it, and I'm incredibly proud and grateful, and I hope that you're proud of the impact that we've had. We've helped lift tens of millions of American families out of poverty, improved so many people's way of life, taken the mindset of scarcity off of many Americans and had them realize, wait a minute, we could do this for ourselves. The next thing that I am going to mainstream, I'm going to spend years doing it, and I would love your help, is how we can actually, like that, make our legislators more rational and responsive and reasonable. And that is by replacing our current closed party primary system on each side with open primaries and ranked choice voting in every district in the country. If the first leg of this journey that so many of you were a part of was the what, this vision of universal basic income for humanity, the next leg of our journey together will be the how, will be how we actually make it happen. And the way we make it happen is by revising our political system so that our legislators' incentives are tied to our well-being instead of their own job security and listening to the most extreme people in their district. Imagine if you were a legislator that had to cater to the 51%. Then all of a sudden, if a majority of Americans said, hey, you know what makes sense? Basic income, it would help us all. Then you would see them gravitate in that direction. Right now, we all despair at what's happening in DC because we can sense that the duopoly is not designed for success, but nothing will change. There's nothing in the Constitution about political parties, two or otherwise. The Founding Fathers would be shocked and horrified at the duopoly because this is one of their worst nightmares come to life. They actually made consistent arguments against factionalism and fixed groups that would not shift and change, which is exactly what we're saddled with now. We have these two parties that are clashing while the rest of us look up and say, why is this not working for us? The reason it's not working is because it's not designed to work. And our next task is going to be actually helping Americans wake up to the fact that a redesign is necessary, but not a fanciful redesign, not one that's impossible. It turns out that there are ballot initiatives that would enable open primaries and ranked choice voting in 24 states around the country, including California. This is the path to both practical results and also hopefully bringing the country back from this polarized mass that we've become. Right now, political stress is at levels not seen since the actual US Civil War. All of the nightmarish visions that we've been subject to over the last number of days are going to recur because all of the incentives are driving our fellow Americans in those directions, from the political incentives to the media incentives to the social media incentives. So why would we expect it to get better? Who here thinks it's going to get better on its own? No one, or else you wouldn't be here at a basic income march on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. So this is the new message, the how. This is what we have to wake up our fellow Americans to, and this is not a partisan thing, this is a universal thing, this is a structural fix thing. This is going to be the forward movement. We're going to take this country not left, not right, but forward, which is exactly where we've been wanting to go this whole time. We're going to take this country forward by actually explaining to our fellow Americans why it's not working, why we shouldn't expect it to work until we fix it. And then we're going to wake up the tens of millions of Americans who are sick of the dysfunction, sick of being pitted against each other. The 57% of Americans who want an option from the duopoly, the 60% who say that both parties are out of touch. This movement is going to grow exponentially as we wake our fellow Americans up to the fact that we are operating in a system that is not designed for us. It has been going on for over a century. We have ridden it and it sputtered along, but now it is failing. And with any time in history, what's required is a popular movement. In this case, of Democrats, independents, Republicans, people of any political alignment that just want our legislators to listen to us and to get our country working again. Are you with me, Mountain View? Yeah! Are we going to wake our fellow citizens up? Yeah! To the people who think that things are broken, I have tough news. You are right. And it is up to us to fix it. But if enough of us get together, we can make it so that ranked choice voting and open primaries is the law of the land. Other states will look up and say, wait a minute, they're doing what in that state? And then what is the counter argument on the part of the partisans? You know, like really, what is the counter argument?
How are we going to pay for it?
Well, they'll look up at this and say, wait a minute, what, the people want choice? But we're running things so well. You know, like, how could they possibly have a difficulty with the current system? It's a very, very weak argument. No, truth is on our side, the interests of the people are on our side. This is the next rung of this journey, and I am fired up about it. I don't know if you can tell. I feel like this is history repeating itself, where one of the first events that we did for Yang 2020, the Yang Gang, Humanity First, the movement was right here in the Bay Area. It was extraordinarily uplifting. There were people that helped bring a vision to the rest of the country. I feel that around me again. I feel that here today. I feel that in the people who've been my comrades in this movement, in bringing this vision, people who've stuck with it, even when it seemed that the movement had accomplished some of its goals, so maybe, maybe that we should put our math hats down and, as you're shaking your head, no. But the crux of the movement is this beautiful humanity that was articulated, I think, by Kevin and Ann and others, by the artists that are being supported by the foundation's work. And one of the criticisms I got from people early on in the campaign was that Andrew, you don't speak enough to the heart. Like you're not really like, you're not a good politician, was what I got a lot of. And it was tough because early on in my campaign, I was like, oh, like maybe I'm not a good politician. Like, uh-oh, like, maybe I need to work on this. And it was really the Yang Gang and the people here today, and the people who support our movement early on, that made me believe in myself, made me believe in my capacity to change the world, not by trying to approximate some vision of a politician, but by embracing my own humanity. And you reward me for it, you picked me up during that time, and I love you for it. Love you! Love you! So what we have in front of us is a movement of humanity, but also one of positivity, optimism, fellowship, and real solutions. It's the unifying political movement that the country has been waiting for. They sense that right now, neither side has it completely right, and that neither side is going to be able to deliver on this kind of positive vision for humanity alone. There needs to be a dynamic shift, a different third force, a unifying force that makes people feel good about the possibilities that lie ahead. That is the movement that I'm going to spend the next number of years building, and I cannot wait to have you all join me in making it happen. Thank you all so much.
All right, quickly, it'd be great if all the speakers could go over there and take a photo. That would be great. That'd be Margaret Abe-Koga, council member, City of Mountain View. Give her a warm round of applause. Kevin Adler from Miracle Messages. Natalie Foster from the Economic Security Project. Ann Bryce, president of the Insight Center for Community and Economic Development. Martin Ford, futurist and speaker. Deborah Cullinan, Yerba Buena artists, GI pilot program, very great. Kevin Dublin, poet and author. Dave Cortese, senator from our great state and my district. And Andrew Yang.